Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the React Foundation series. So in the previous episode of the Rails API series, we implemented the endpoint that's going to allow us to list out the organizations of a particular account. So let's take a look at what we have on the front end over here. So I'm going to head over here, and you can see we're not exactly listing out the organizations just yet. So we need to implement the store that's going to make that network call and get the organization for that particular account. So let's head over into the code over here. So I'm going to close out the server side, and I'm going to head over into the organization collection. So this here, right here, is where we're going to render out the collection of organizations. So what I'm going to do is, so let's take a look at the new over here. So this is the one we're using to create the organization. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an extend observable, pretty much the same thing what we did in this particular component here in the collection as well, but we're going to instantiate a new store. So we're going to keep the store separate. Yeah. So that's pretty much kind of like what we're going to try to achieve. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off with the constructor props and then super props like that. And we want to do an import on the extend observable. So import extend from mobx. So and then now we need the store. So we need to do an import on the store as well. That looks about right. So here we're going to do a new stores dot organization. It's going to look pretty much like this one here. So we need to do an inject and observer as well. So I'm going to copy this part over here. And we're going to do an inject, endpoint, observer. And here we're going to do a const endpoint props. And then here it's going to be v1 slash. So we are going to use account ID from params. So we're going to do endpoint and params in terms of the destructuring. And const account ID equals params. Account ID. All right. So now that we have extend observable, and so now basically what this is going to do is this .organizations is going to be allow us to access this particular store. So what we need to do here is then when we mount this component, so component did mount. We need to do a call to get all the organization for this account. So this .organization .find all. All right, so that looks pretty good. So once we do a find all, we need to also, extract the data from this store. So let's just test that everything is, it's actually making the call before we go ahead and, do any further action. So let's take a look over here. Organizations option. Did we ever get a 200? So we haven't even started the server. So let me start the server right there. Do a reload real quick. All right, so there we go. So we have a 200 on the organization, and we're returning 2 organizations. So already created a test, like 2 test organizations. We are getting that, those 2 organizations in an array, like we tested. So basically what we need to do now is, so you can see here, it is making that call. Everything is working. Yeah. So what we need to do now is kind of like list out the organizations from those collection, right? From that array. So there's a couple of ways to do that. So what we can do is we can do something like this. Const all is loading equals this dot organizations. So let me do a console.log here. All console. All right, so let's take a look at what we did in the contacts here. We have an example of that. Oh, it's collection. My bad. It's collection. It's not all. So I'm getting confused between the old API and the new API. So we're going to change this to collection. And here we're going to do collection. All right, so we can see here, we have a collection over here. And it does contain 2 objects. And so basically what we can do is we can actually list out these objects. So I can do something like this better. So we can see much better what we're getting. So here we can see the array, and it's got 2 objects with the ID and the name of the organization in there. So what we can do now is we can actually render out these collection of organizations. So let's try that out. So here we're going to do collection.map. And then here it's going to be org. Div. So we can clean this up and make it pretty later, but let's just get it to work first. And then basically, so we need to remove that. Here we're going to do org.name. So there we go. It already automatically reloaded. So we're getting an error where we need to have a unique key and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do here is key org.id. So now everything is working. All the errors are kind of gone. So you can see here we have test and some org listed out. So we actually have something now. And, we can make this pretty and we can style it later. Once we have the new organization stuff working, we can come and clean all this up with the styling a little bit later. So what I'm going to do here is now we're making the call. We can also actually implement the spinner. We have the spinner right here that's been waiting, for the past few episodes. So what I'm going to do is in this episode, I'm going to wrap this up right here. I'm going to not worry about is loading just yet until we really need to worry about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this episode right here. So I want to thank everybody. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in the next episode. Then we're going to implement the new organization where we're going to send the request and come back and all that stuff. Actually, it's already working. So why don't we just give it a whirl before we end the episode? So because we implemented the endpoint and we already implemented all this in the previous episode. So if you haven't seen that, there are previous episodes. Some of them are members exclusive. So you're going to need to become a member for $9 a month to get access to all those episodes. If you're already a member, you should be able to do just fine and, head back and watch the old episodes and see how this form was created. And how it was wired up to work with the back end. So let's go ahead and create an organization. So another one somewhere on Earth, on Heart. And the taxpayer ID is whatever we want it to be. Click create. We come back, we get another one right away. So, everything is working. But what we want to do now is, it would be cool to be able to show some kind of error. Like in this form, it would be nice to be able to kind of like show the errors. Like for example, if we submit an empty, if I take a look at the network over here, and if I submit an empty form, we should get a 404 or 422 on the server. So for example here, so you can see here we're getting a 500 for some reason. And basically we need to make sure that, everything is working in terms of the the errors. So I don't know why the error is not working. So we'll take a look at that in the next episode. Maybe we jump back to the server side. So let's wrap this up. It's getting a little bit long, but you can see everything is working. We are showing the organization listing once we create it. So the whole flow is kind of working. But in the next episode, we're going to take a look at the error handling. We're going to see why it's broken. As you can see here, we're seeing the error message over here. We're going to see why it's returning a 500. We really wanted to return a 422. So with that, I want to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone who has become a member and has paid us $9 a month and have access to everything. So I want to thank you guys. And those of you who have not become a member yet, let us know what kind of content you actually want to see. Right now, we're just focusing on React and the Rails API, but we have a ton of content coming up as well. With that, I want to wrap it up. If you like this episode, like it and share it with your friends and family. And I will see you guys in the next episode.